podcast reviewing games from the Game Pass collection, bringing you three unique perspectives from varying skill range. I am the detective on the case, Andrew. With me, our basket case, Keith,
Hello.
and our space case, Aaron.
Hey,
This week, Aaron picked the game. We played The Case of the Golden Idol by Color Gray Games. The Case of the Golden Idol is a puzzle detective game where you're trying to solve a mystery about this idol that has magical powers that kind of starts to span through a family lineage. But before we get into this, I just want to remind everyone, please make sure you follow us on our YouTube or our Discord. I will have the link to our link tree in the show notes, so please come join us. You know, we do live recordings every Wednesday. Me and Keith are on our Discord a lot, and our YouTube. We've been quite active on there now. Thanks to Aaron. So make sure you come join us. Say hi. But yeah, The Kiss of the Golden Idol. So let's get into this. Gamer Pass. I will start this off. So I remember when this came on Game Pass. This has probably been on maybe 2-3 months now. And I remember seeing it. I was like, this art style looks really weird. And then I saw like people on Twitter being like, hey, this game's really good. So I decided to check it out. And it's pretty interesting. It's kind of a weird game to recommend because I don't quite know who is like a type of person who would love playing this. It overall, I'm giving it a game. It's very simple. Basically, the gameplay is a still image, and you are clicking on things, gathering clues, and trying to fill in the word blank paper to figure out what is happening in this scenario. Rinse or repeat multiple cases. That's the game. But overall, it's pretty fun. The puzzles are not too hard, but it really makes you think. The game has some stuff to it. That's I don't know. I enjoyed my time with it.
So I haven't beaten it yet, which I really should have. I think it's like a 7-hour game.
Yeah, 8 hours.
Yeah, I think, but I have, I don't know, like a couple chapters to go. But I largely did all of what I did in like one big long sit down. I just pulled it up last night, as a matter of fact, and played for like 4 hours straight.
Solid work,
And
Keith.
You
Putting
know
in
me.
that work.
Hey, you know me. But honestly, no, I have had a lot of fun with it, and like I think you're right in that I don't know exactly who I would recommend it to, at least as like a individual, but I think I would also recommend this to anybody because
Yeah.
there's no real difficulty cap to it outside of, figuring out these puzzles. Like, my wife always jokes about, when I'm playing a game, she's like, I don't know, does it have more than one button? If I say yes, she's like, well, I would never play that. And I guess technically this has a few more than one button in a sense. This is a type of game at the very least, like she could sit down and play this with me. So even someone who doesn't play games could easily pick this up. I think it's perfectly accessible, that as long as you have reading capabilities, like it's a game you can play. And I think it's interesting enough that if you just like puzzles of any kind, it's fun. And I think that's the biggest thing to it. The two biggest vibes I got from it were Chants of Sennaar, and I think after playing that, like if I knew someone like that, I'd be like, then you absolutely should check out Case of the Golden Idol. And then I kind of liken it a lot to a Sudoku puzzle. Like there's certain clues that they're like, okay,
Yeah.
here's like your definite answer, and then you just start to whittle it down. However you personally solve those style of puzzles. That's kind of how I was approaching these puzzles. So yeah, I think I would actually, honestly, I'd say this is like a definite game.
Wow. Yeah, Aaron, why did you pick this game?
Very similar to what you said. There was actually two things that caught my attention on it. I know that people really like this game, so I'd heard a lot of people mention it. And then I think it was last week. So when I brought this up, some DLC dropped for it. Come to find out, there was a lot of DLC for it. I was like, man, I don't feel like this game's been out that long, but there are a bunch of other cases.
There's two.
I thought I saw 4.
Nope. I have the Wikipedia up, and there's 2.
But
the Spider of Lanka and the Lemurian Vampire.
See, when I clicked on it in Game Pass, I could have swore I saw like a bunch, and because it was like,
you know what it is? There's some combo packs. I can't remember what game it was packaged with, but I remember seeing that as well.
Oh, that might have been what I was looking at. But either way, it popped back up on my radar as this was a game people talked about, and then it had some DLC that was either coming out or had just come out. So I was like, oh, well, let's go check that one out. I know, especially with Andrew likes to kind of highlight some kind of more under the radar stuff. Obviously, everybody knows Halo. Everyone knows Gears of War, but not everybody knows Curse of the Golden Idol kind of stuff. So my experience with this is really tough for me because there's a lot that I really like about this game. But I would have to give it a pass. And a common phrase for me here on this, and a common phrase for me is this game is a cell phone game. I've said that about multiple games in the past.
This actually is on mobile. So
this is 100%. And don't get me wrong, it's not a knock on the game itself. There is obviously a time and a place for cell phone games, and that's inside the lobby at the waiting room of a dentist office. It's a game you can pull up, just kind of dink around on, keep yourself kind of mildly entertained, and then you kind of put it away and you wait until the next time you've got some downtime to just kind of pop it out there. That's a mobile game to me, right? And I'm not
gonna fight on this game, Aaron.
And this game is actually perfect for that type of environment because all you need to do is click on some things and use your brain. That's all you need to do. It just doesn't belong. Like, it's not something that like I need to have on my console. I don't need to have it on my console. Now, with that being said, the reason why it's not a game to me is because it's not really a game. It's kind of just a puzzle. There really isn't
puzzle game.
There isn't really any game feature here, though. There's nothing really game happening here. It is just a click. And I actually like, though, the puzzle. You know what this reminds me of? This is do you remember?
I do not get where you're going. You're like, I don't like this game, but I like the puzzle, and that's what it is.
The problem is you're going to ask me if this is a game or a pass, and the problem is it's not a game. So
it is a game. Would you if you sat down and did a puzzle, would you consider that a game?
No. Well, like if I sat down and did a jigsaw puzzle, yeah. I would not cut that. Dude, no, are we going to do this 2 weeks in a row?
I'm with Aaron on this one. Because I can 100% get where Aaron is saying, and I don't even think you're entirely wrong. So that's why I'm not going to have the fight with you, because I don't think you're 100% wrong. But at that point, it's and this isn't a walking simulator, but it's like saying a walking simulator isn't a game, but it is in a sense of it's an interactive experience. And that's where, and I know that's splitting hairs, so that's why I'm going to go no further. I'm not engaging in this conflict, but I will say, I still think it's a game. Not in the Game Pass grab bag Gamer Pass game. It is a game. It is a game. It's an interactive virtual experience, and I will say no further.
I get it, right? This is semantics, and this is why I said I've kind of struggled with it, because it wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it. And I can actually, honestly, I can see scenarios where, like you guys are saying, who would you recommend this to? I thought about it, and I was like, this is actually kind of like a perfect game for couples. Yeah. If you're sitting on a couch with somebody else, like, to me, that's why I think this would actually be kind of some decent fun, because you could kind of work these things out together. But again, this to me is such a perfect game to put on a phone. Which, by the way, I should also add, way better to play on PC than it is to play on a controller.
Agreed. So I was playing some on PC.
Brutal on a controller. In fact, you can make an argument that the worst experience is probably on a console. It's probably way easier on a phone and way easier on a PC, and worse on a console. I can't give it a game, because it's just such a limited experience. Not a bad one, but a limited experience. Or by the way, Andrew, you kind of interrupted me. You know what this did tickle my brain with? Do you remember when we were young children and Dad used to read to us
Encyclopedia Brown? I
Encyclopedia
was going to
Brown?
bring this up too. I was
And-
literally like, this reminds me of Encyclopedia Brown.
And there were these short stories, and they would give you the solution at the end, because Encyclopedia Brown always figured out what was happening.
Yeah, but could
And-
you figure it out?
But we would always get quizzed on it. What do you
Yeah.
think is happening? And we would have to talk through the scenario. So this did remind me of that, but that's fine. That's a nostalgia thing. So I'm not going to, but all that to say,
I
this
love
is
that
a-
you had the same feeling
Yeah.
as me.
because it hit that part of me of, oh, I like this. Like, I like this. And it progressively gets more difficult as you go along. There's way more clues, way more things to sift through.
Oh, wait till the end.
I know. So ultimately, this is a pass. But I'm probably going to say a lot of things that are really good about this, and somebody's going to find joy in it. I totally get that. Totally get it.
See, well, I'm already gonna push back. This is more of a game because literally the last couple cases, I'm literally writing stuff on piece of paper, like to try to keep track of things. Because this is also where I'll give pushback with you when you said you need to play this on mobile. This is absolutely not a game I feel like you could quit mid case, because you really got to piece things together, and you got to remember. You got to remember, what was that guy doing? What was that guy doing? So who was the victim? And if
I
you
think
put
it
it
might-
down, because
I
that's what
think that
happened.
might
I played
depend
this while. Oh, go ahead.
where you are, because so like I was saying, I played a pretty long like sit down with this game last night. I got through, I think it was like the first 4 or 5 chapters in like one sitting. And towards the end, well, it was getting late, and I had a couple beers, so I was starting to like lose focus on it, and I was struggling. I picked it up this afternoon, and immediately I was like, oh, this all makes sense now. Like I think if I went a week between play, you're right. I don't know that I would have picked it up where it was, but I think, partly my brain just being a little bit more awake, but also realistically just, and it's funny because the game actually recommends this. Like if you go and you're like, I'd like a hint. It's like, well,
Yeah.
wait, first, it like gives you a couple like steps of like, at least think this through before you do. And then if you haven't, honestly, just walk away from it, because like it's going to help you. But beyond that, I also like that it doesn't penalize you for actually taking the hints too. It like tries to
Yeah.
talk you out of it, but it's like, no, just go ahead and do it still. Or just get through it. But yeah, I'd contest that this game has elements of, it really is good to just like kind of let your brain walk away from the puzzle, because I think in the back of your brain you're still doing this puzzle, right? Like that's how our brains work. You might not be like actively thinking about it, but your brain's like, oh, let me just kind of file all these things away, and it's like organizing it so that the next time you see it, it just clicks better.
I agree with Keith. I did not feel like I absolutely have left a bunch of times when I was in the middle of a puzzle, because it's not a game, it's a puzzle. And I could get back into it, and it was easy enough. Like the clues are somewhat easy to piece together. In fact, I think the most laborious part is clicking on all the clues the first time, because it almost feels like just a huge mess. You're just kind of clicking on things, and you like, especially when you're kind of shifting to a bunch of different rooms, which is another reason why this is awful on controller. Because sometimes I want to shift to a totally different room on the other side of the house, and it's like, gosh, I have to go all the way over there. Like, where did I see this? But then once you start to put some of these pieces together, it starts to congeal, and I feel like I can walk away because I've been processing it so much, and I can get back into it, and it's pretty quick to pick up where I left off.
So to explain more of the gameplay of the Case of the Golden Idol, so the way the game plays is, you are given essentially a GIF of an image. So it's just, you'll see characters on a screen with a slight movement, very slight movement, and it's just repeating back and forth. And all over the screen, you will have question marks. So it tells you, like, hey, this is a clue, click on it. And so, like, let's say it's a person. You click on the person, and it'll like open their jacket, so you can see what they had on their person. Maybe some money, a dagger, and a note, and you can read the note. And as you're reading through, specifically mostly notes, it'll have a word that's underlined, and you got to click on that word, and you add it to your like clue book. And so the main purpose of each of these cases is to fill out the words in a like Mad Lib kind of style phrase. So it'll say blank killed blah 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 with blank, and so you got to find the words on the page, and so you can able to insert it onto the final case and actually solve the mystery. So that's it. So it's very easy. So you're not just like clicking random things on a screen. Like it specifically shows you, hey, click on this. This will give you a word to add to your clue book. So it's very easy, especially at the beginning. At the beginning, it's very easy to kind of push things together. But once you start into the later ends of the cases, like you guys are saying, oh yeah, you just kind of click on the words. It's kind of easy to piece together. But a lot of it's context clues is how you solve the mystery later on. Like you're not quite getting the words, and you got to figure out how to solve this case by the context clues of what's going on in the picture and who people are and what's going on.
Yeah.
So it gets way more of a game later on.
The context stuff is important to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't, the context clues are there. Like, obviously, the bits and pieces of what people are saying, even if it's not highlighted, you need to recognize that. You need to recognize what they're saying. Where the rooms are located can sometimes be a factor. Again, I love all of that stuff about it. I think, like, I think that it is, yeah, it's like a living portrait with a bunch of.
Javier in our chat just made a perfect example. It is Living's Blue Clues.
It
Blue's Clues. Like that's how it's done.
It isn't. It is an adult version of Blue's Clues, because people are dead.
Yeah.
There's somebody dead in every single one.
Actually playing as Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good deduction there, Javier. There's Blue's Clues.
And you know what Blue's Clues is? Isn't a game.
It absolutely is. It is
'cause
gamified learning for children.
Even the hints thing is very much like a crossword puzzle, like on New York Times or Wordle. Wordle's not a game; it's a puzzle. Just like this. I think that this is. There are a lot of fun things about this. Like it feels good when you kind of are able to put the pieces together. I will say there are some that I went through where I was like, I don't think I was really satisfied with the explanation. Like you would solve it, and it was kind of like, man, there was probably a lot of missing pieces of information that makes that story make sense. Do you know what I mean? Like you could piece it together.
I guess that's kind of what I'm curious, because it sounds like you didn't beat it, and I didn't either. So I'm curious.
I'll tell you. The first one that it like this stuck out to me. I'll just tell you the one where the first one where it stuck out to me was the one. I did the finger thing. Please.
I love how the camera does that.
Please.
It just zooms it on your face like you're about to break something down real serious.
And it's if I ever do this hand motion. Oh, there we go. All right. So if I do a hand motion, the camera zooms in like straight into my eyeballs. For anyone listening to this,
watching
the first one that did it to me was the like tavern one where there's two rooms upstairs and there's people playing cards down below.
Yep, that one got me.
But it was relatively easy to complete, didn't take too long, but I was kind of like, I don't know, like that storyline that it plays out. So what actually happened? I was like, there was a lot of missing elements there to fill in some of those details. And it's because you're kind of you're kind of just looking at, I don't know how to describe it. I want to say it without kind of ruining it.
No, I think I get what you're saying, because at least from my perspective, where I kind of struggled with some of these is you're trying to piece together a period of time in a completely stagnant setting. So it's like, this is the time you're in, but you have to piece together a 3-hour block of time that happened leading up to it. And that one got me and that was the first one that I looked, at least so far, I mean, I haven't beaten the game, so maybe I end up in this situation, but I've looked up 2 things, and that was one of them, because I was genuinely like, I got to a point, and I think I had I narrowed it down to the 2 people, or when it's like, hey, you have 2 things wrong, basically.
Yeah.
And there was something, I don't remember what it was about it. It was one of the room names, I think, and I just couldn't, for whatever reason, I could not figure it out, and as soon as I solved it, that's when I went, okay, now it makes sense. Like I went back and I looked at some of the clues that it gave me, like the score sheet on the card game they were
Yep.
playing. Like,
That
it's
was like the
okay,
most important clue.
exactly. And I had used it, but not for the ultimate solve as well as I needed to, because I was like, what am I missing? And I was just running in circles and I'm like switching names and I couldn't figure it out. The other one that and I before even looking it up, I was like, I'm going to use all the hints. I'm going to use all of my like check the answers. I
Cheater.
used every single exhaustive option in the game, and I was like, I still couldn't get it. I'm like, what am I missing here? And I got where it got to it, but to me, it didn't feel like it did a good job of leading me to that solution. But that was just kind of a personal gripe. But
That's what I mean.
overall,
Like
but overall, though, I haven't had a lot of that, and I think part of it was like it was the more I went into the game, I kind of started to see how they were building the puzzles, and that's where I think I started to take, like I mentioned, like my kind of Sudoku approach. So like I would open up a chapter and I would just immediately like click through all the clues. I wouldn't even bother reading them. I would just click them, collect everything, get that done, and then I would just whittle down. Kind of starting with one puzzle, fill in all the guaranteed blocks, the ones I knew, and just sort of work my way down. And partially because you don't have to do all the optional ones, but I think they're kind of fun and also help make the final solve easier.
Yeah.
So
help you
I
with
would
the
just
final solve.
Yeah. So I would just work my way down and kind of do the final solve last is how I've been working through them.
Another thing that I do want to compliment this game on, I know that you guys talked about the hints don't punish you like this because there's no scoring in it because it's not a game. But one of the things that I really like actually about the hints is in other puzzles, if you do a hint, it'll kind of like basically give you the answer. It'll kind of just highlight it. This one very much talks to you like an adult, where it's like, you want a hint? Why don't you consider these things? And it forces you actually to go back and think. It doesn't just hand it to you. It goes, hey, consider these things in this puzzle. And it's like, oh, great. The problem with that for me was usually I've already considered those things.
I'm already confused. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. And so the hints very rarely helped me. Like the one that I'm thinking of, we're kind of in a mansion and there's rooms on the side. It was the poisoning one.
The poisoning one, yeah.
And I had already figured out the rooms. Like it was kind of easy. I think I got one of them mixed up though. But it was kind of easy to attach who was in what room. But when I was like searching for a hint, it was like, you should consider who's in what room. And I was like, yeah, I did. Dang it, that's not the hint I need. Come on, help me out here. But again, I do appreciate that about the game. The game is gently guide you.
The what now? What guides you?
The puzzle? The puzzle? The puzzle will
It's funny because I could have sworn I heard you say the game there.
Oh, no. You misheard me. You misheard me. It's a puzzle. But again, I do appreciate that it gently guided you in ways. And again, it talks to you like an adult.
So where did you guys say? Where did you guys end? Like what case?
So I'm working my way through the house right now. The one with like
there's like several house ones.
That's a good point. I was also just about to follow it with the one with the murder. And
very helpful.
But yeah, there's it's like after the election, there's the Prince of Lemuria there.
Oh yeah. Oh, so you're pretty far.
Yeah, like I said, I got really, really far through it. I started to kind of
12 cases with an epilogue. And I think you're on like 10.
I had just started the one, right? The one after the poisoning one. How far is that?
That's the ritual one, right? That one was one of my favorites, actually. I thought that was one of the most fun because it wasn't about time like we were talking about earlier. It was a lot about the set pieces in the room and trying to work through like the combinations of
what clan,
what outfit,
what their ranking is.
Yeah,
exactly. Like that was a really fun one for me. and I really enjoyed it. And actually, the one following it was pretty fun. And I think that's part of it too. Is I've sort of found, and it makes sense, like a lot of games, like your introduction there, they started out and it's like, here's two things. And you're like, I could figure this out without in any of the clues. And as you get further and further, these puzzles in the game become so much more involved that it just starts to tickle my brain a lot more in ways. I'm like, this is fun. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. Also, another cool thing about this puzzle is each one evolves a grander story.
Yeah.
Which I actually think that's a really clever thing. By the way, I did not expect this game to be what it was. You know what I thought this game was going to be like was Monkey Island. So I thought it was going to be a point and click adventure. But whenever you're looking at screenshots of it, that's what it looks like it's trying to do. So I already went into it expecting that. But so then when I was presented with this game, I thought what I was going to see were just single cases, like not connected. They were just going to progressively get more dynamic or more interesting. And they did. But it was kind of cool that talking about context, Andrew, characters, you learn things about them in earlier puzzles that then you kind of take that information into the next one. I thought that was actually really well done.
Yeah, I think the ritual one going into the lighthouse, which is the one after the ritual, does a really good setup of that, because there's like, I don't know if it's a twist, but like there's definitely like some weird things that start to happen between the characters in the ritual one that seem to pan out more as you go in, and so you're like kind of playing on that. Okay, I have to remember this knowledge from prior chapters.
Yeah. I do like that about it, because obviously you can solve a puzzle, I guess, without knowing that stuff in the past, but it definitely helps. Like, it definitely helps to know like who this character is, and especially when you're reading some of the letters, it's tied in to some of the information that existed on a previous case. All that to say, I just think that's a clever way of actually evolving a story. So even though this is just individual puzzles that you're going through, there is an overarching story.
Yeah.
It's that, and it's the way they build the characters too, where it's like this person, there's one person I'm thinking in particular, and shows up, I think it's in the second chapter, very nondescript. They're just kind of there. I think you add them to the puzzle like once, and then they become a major set piece.
Yeah.
To set up other characters that start out the same way, like very, very low key, and then all of a sudden they're the main focal point. And I liked the way they were evolving these characters through the story too, not just that it was all a connected story.
Yeah. With no voice dialogue either. This is all just basically reading.
You know what they didn't do? Thank goodness.
Oh yeah. Don't even do that.
Nope, they just let it be. Thank you for that.
Yeah, the last two cases, so the very last case and then the epilogue, you literally have to go back to all the cases, because the final case has multiple deaths and everyone's wearing a mask. And so you essentially have to go through the previous cases and see like, oh, who slighted who, that they would want revenge.
That's
and
awesome.
Why did they want it? And so you literally have to go back to these other scenarios, these other cases you did. So that's, like I said, when I was starting to write stuff down, because I was like, okay, during this case, this person did this to that person.
So how does that play out? Like, can you scroll back?
Yes.
And look at
on the controller, you hit the right stick and it lets you select previous cases that you've completed.
So it was like a new game plus in a way.
A little bit, yeah. So, but it was really cool. So like literally as you're doing this and following the golden idol to the end of this whole scenario, you have to figure out like why these three people died and who killed them and why. So it's really cool. And same with like the epilogue.
That's kind of an interesting point too. Like one of the main characters of this game is an inanimate object.
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird story plotline. The one thing that, and it makes sense in the name, the case of the golden idol, but it's just interesting how it, like, they take it and just, it's like it's an active character in a lot of ways. Just it's not.
Yeah. I mean, you literally see it in every single one of the cases. Yeah, you see the idol.
Yeah, the more we're talking about, the more I'm like, man, this actually was a lot of fun, like trying to figure it out. How often did you guys use the hints? Because I didn't use the hints until literally the last case.
It was that one mission. I actually, the one that I looked up, the card one, I think it was like I looked up the solution because I had all of the side option quests solved, and it was just the final one that I couldn't piece together the like one option. So I was like, screw it, I'm just looking this up.
I probably used it in total maybe 4 times, because that's what I'm saying. Like, some of it wasn't overly helpful. Where I kind of liked it is if I wanted to check the names. Like, sometimes I would just pop it on there to see, wait, who do I have wrong here? Because it'll tell you if you put all the names in. So there's also a screen. Obviously, any character presented, you can get on there and you need to figure out who's who. And if they're not right, it'll tell you, one or more of them or 2 or more of them are not correct. So there were a couple times where I was like, what did I mess up here? I feel like this is perfect. And then I'd hit it and I'd see, because sometimes I would have, like, there'd be instances like going to the house. You're kind of introduced to a new character there in that the poisoning. And all I saw was his first name. I never saw his last name. I only saw his first. And I'm going through everything trying to see a reference to his last name. I'm trying to see if I can find a handkerchief, because I know maybe a handkerchief has his initials on there or something. And I looked all over the place and I couldn't find it. So, I was
But
like,
he's
what?
related to somebody at the party, right? So he shares it. Yeah,
That's how I figured it out. That's how I figured it out. Because
that one, and it's funny because that one, at least that specific part of it, that one I got right away. There was a couple pieces of that puzzle that threw me for a loop, but that one I actually did pick up on really quickly.
Those are the kind of fun evolutions of it. Like the fun evolution in each one of those puzzles, and much like Andrew said, once you get to the end, it's like off the wall bonkers in the amount of stuff you got to kind of keep tabs on. But that was kind of one of those examples where, to that point, you're kind of collecting the clues by clicking on them, like Andrew described. And that's where I was like, does this dude's last name pop up anywhere? And I'm spending all this time thinking about it. And it wasn't until it occurred to me, it's like, oh, wait, yeah, he's related to this character. They share the last name. I'm like, dang it. Why didn't I? Because at that point, it just didn't happen yet in those puzzles. So I'm spending all this time clicking on things, trying to, like, this dude's name's got to be somewhere. But I love that about that. I kind of like that it just continues to evolve as you're going along. Again, I the more I think about this isn't even just like a couples game. This is a party game.
Yeah.
Like, this is where, kind of like you would on a board game or something like that, where you're doing, where you're trying to solve some type of case or something like that. I could see a group of people in a room kind of talking through this stuff to try and solve the puzzles. I don't know. There's definitely a place for this.
Oh, so you described this as a party game then?
Well,
party puzzle.
Hold on.
Party puzzle a lot.
You have to refer to it as a party game, because obviously you can't say party puzzle. That doesn't make any sense. But a party game is in reference to a bunch of people in a room.
So is a puzzle a party game?
Is a puzzle a party game?
Because you can just.
Which, are we talking about a jigsaw puzzle?
I mean, it could be a jigsaw puzzle. Jigsaw puzzles can be done with groups of people.
I mean, it could. I still wouldn't call it a game.
It's party game though.
No, but you would just refer to this as a jigsaw puzzle. You know what this is? This is kind of like the argument on, is golf a sport or a game? And I still contest that it's a game, not a sport. If you can retire to play it, it's not a sport. That's just if you were 80 years old and could be pretty good at that thing, it's not a sport. It is a game at that point. This is kind of one of those things where there's nothing game about it. It's just a giant puzzle. A cool one. I did enjoy that, but it's not a game.
All right. So the art style, though, I gotta say, I like the art style of this game.
I did too.
It first kind of creeped me out. It very much kind of reminded me of almost like you ever see on YouTube or is Meat Canyon.
Yeah,
Kind
the
of
kind of
very grotesque and exaggerated.
yeah, the over the top kind of exaggerated look of people. Yeah,
Which cool thing. Can you guess where this developer is from?
if I were to guess, I'd say England.
No, I
But
think he's typing up. It's Latvia.
Okay.
okay,
Yeah,
I mean,
Interesting.
that's not as crazy as I expected. I was expecting you to say like Indonesia or something like that. That would have really knocked me for a loop. But I guess how many developers are from Latvia?
yeah.
Well, this has to be. This has to be just one man, right?
No, two people, brothers.
That
I mean, like, this is the perfect type of experience for just two people to make. There's no voice, which is great. There's no mumbly sounds that Keith doesn't want to hear. Nobody wants to hear that. Who am I kidding? And it looks like it's all hand drawn. There's very little movement in it. You just kind of have to be good at creating puzzles. So, hats off to these guys.
it's kind of interesting because you're saying you don't expect a lot from like Latvia, and I feel like if I'm correct, Latvia is Eastern Europe, and I actually feel like there's a good chunk of Eastern Europe. So I did just a quick search. Now I don't know that these are all like big names, but this is like 30 plus companies. An article that came up that are from that region of Europe.
Oh,
Romania, Poland, Serbia,
interesting.
Romania, Croatia.
So you just use the hints to get an answer. That's what you just
No,
did right there.
Use Google.
Yeah, that's like the ultimate hint machine is going to Google.
I mean, I did use Google at points.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was the house one. I used all the hints. I used all of my corrections, and it was finding out who
Cheater.
the actual killer was, and it was like without spoiling it, because you pick up the clues. It was something to do with like use the fourth in every row, and I was like, I can't put together where I'm supposed to use that to figure it out, and I like had an idea of what I was supposed to be trying to do, and then I was like, I just can't anymore. I was like getting so frustrated, and because I was trying to push through the game a little bit, I didn't want to just walk away from it. Like normally that's what I do. I'd be like, I'm just gonna put this down and come back at this later. But I was just so annoyed. I was like, screw it, I'm just going and got through it. Because just as a quick side note, like I kind of do wish a little bit that there was like, if you're just gonna give me all these hints and options, like I don't know, like an auto solve type of thing. But that does defeat the purpose of it. So I'm fine with that, totally not. But what I didn't mention, you kind of did, Aaron. The controller is the worst experience on this game. And this is one of my big gripes of the game, is that it just feels clunky and hard to control. The amount of times I'm like misplacing the names in the wrong boxes and like trying to figure out. You can drag and drop it, but it doesn't really work. You can also do a focus if you use the D-pad. That doesn't work really well. But beyond the controller aspect, the one that goes through PC, mobile, or well, I say mobile like I've played it, but I haven't, but I assume, and console, they don't organize the hints well. I get that they want you to move around, but it irritates me that I collect all these things and that all that it collects is a box with a word or a name in it. It doesn't actually like that, piece of paper I read in somebody's pocket. I have to go back to their pocket, and I'm torn because I think part of that is because part of the helpfulness of that hint is the context of where you found it.
Yep.
But at the same time, there's plenty of times where, like I think you mentioned it, Aaron, I just want the name off of it. I'm like, I need to just reread it for the name. So just give that to me easy access. And I kind of wish it had that. But outside of that, honestly, I really have no gripes about the gameplay or anything else. The puzzle play.
With the controller, like there was a handful of times I would lose my cursor. Like it would just like delete it.
You have to like hit B, and I don't know if it was intentionally. I think it was a bug, but yeah, I just kind of.
It was any time you opened up, like if you were trying to collect, like if you're trying to put names to faces, or if you're trying to fill in kind of the final clue thing. Anytime you went back into the puzzle, your cursor was gone, but the D-pad would work. So I usually have to hit the D-pad and then the cursor would pop back. Like that was kind of but yeah, again, kind of a pain. It wasn't super intuitive. Yeah, and that's where I'm saying, like, especially when the maps, the puzzles got kind of bigger and there were multiple rooms. yeah, I knew like something would be mentioned, and I was like, dang it. I know that that's sitting somewhere on the right side of this thing. So now I got to travel all over there, and it's not fast to do that. But I'm not going to fault, like, it's hard to fault that. Kind of like you're saying, yeah, I didn't love that the clues are just kind of thrown into a giant pile. But at the same time, I think that's the point. I think the point is it wants you to actually find the answer, and then you go in there and you already know what the answer is. So I don't even need it categorized. I just know I need this or I need this name. So yeah, in theory, I would love it if it was organized, but I totally get why that probably just was not a design choice.
It's so I almost feel like I want both. Like I want it collected in a central area once I've collected it, but also to be able to go back and see it where it was, so that you can use the context is kind of more what I would like to see it as. But I totally get it, and none of the maps are so big that you get lost in them. And
No.
honestly, if anything, like right now on the on this salon murder with everyone there, everyone's in the same room, and I think that actually almost makes it harder, because one of the puzzles it wants you to piece together is where was everybody at the time of the murder. So you have to, I mean, you could solve it however, but the way I'm trying to do it is making sure first I figure out who everyone is, and then I can start to go back. There's a police officer or a constable in the room that has a book of notes and it's the commentary from everyone. So you have to then go back and piece together where was everyone based on that. And there's, obviously
you got to figure out who's lying.
Well, and that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the fun of it too, is you're like, there's some of these puzzles where you're like, well, wait a minute. You have to like eliminate things, like the puzzle or the dinner table one was kind of a fun, like, okay, I'm figuring out what everyone was eating. And that was how I helped figure, where everyone was seated and what the murder was. And I don't know, all of these things, just the more I talk about it, and like, this is just a really cool game.
Yeah, the more we're talking about, the more I'm like, all right, no, I actually like this way more than I thought. Now
I already recommended it to one of my coworkers. We were just talking today. I was like, I don't even know if you like puzzle games. I was like, I just played.
You guys came in so soft on this. Like, I don't know who to recommend this to. Where I'm like, I get it.
Anybody. I said really anybody. Like, it's accessible. Like, it's not like there's a specific style of person. It's just like if you play video games at all and you like puzzles, just play this.
I don't think you need it. That's the thing, though.
I say it for the purpose of, well, two reasons. One is console. I mean, obviously there's other ways to play it, but if you don't play games, it's going to just be hard to be like, you should just download and pay $10 for this game on your mobile phone to just check it out on my recommendation. If you don't play games at all, but if you play any games, I could easily. Now, again, I use the example of my wife. Like, if I were to sit down and be like, hey, you want to sit and play this with me? It would be a different situation than being like, hey, you just go download this game and buy it on your phone, because I think you'd have fun with it.
I think you're kind of making my point, though, is she would be more likely to play this game and enjoy this than any other video game, because it's not really a game. It's a puzzle. And that's where I actually think this is easy to recommend, because I think even if you don't like video games, I would say that this is still kind of a no-brainer to recommend to somebody that just enjoys puzzles. Like, I would have no issue recommending this to my parents. If they enjoyed puzzles, I would say, oh, you'll like this. Like, this is kind of fun to just kind of sit there and process through. Like, I think it's actually a good way to work your brain. And so that's what I'm saying. Where it just falls into a different category. And I'm not saying it's bad. I liked this.
Give it a pass.
I had a pass because of this, though.
Because I think the core component is it has to be a game. And it's not a game, so it can't be labeled a game.
So you're a person I wouldn't recommend this to then.
No, because I like puzzles. I like puzzles too. That right?
I think you're giving it a pass because of semantics.
Exactly. No.
You're very much like Keith.
I feel like we should be principled on this podcast. And if we're going to label something a game, it must actually fit the definition of a game. And this is a puzzle, so it can't be defined as a game. I don't know. All right, it's semantics. Would I have given it a game if I could shoot somebody in it? Then yeah, probably. or if I could jump on their head and they turn into a bunch of coins, then yes. Or if there was a score at the end. But again, I really like this. I think you can recommend this to people. I really do. I think there's actually some environments where I think this is actually a ton of fun. But
Well, I already told
Some
you I did recommend
environments.
it to somebody, so
exactly.
I actually
But
recommended it to 2 people because there was 2 coworkers present. I told them both to play it.
I feel like we all started in the wrong area at the beginning, because both of you guys were like, I don't really know who you recommend this to, and you guys are both like, I'd recommend this to everybody. I love this game. And then me, I was the most passive on it, and I'm the one actually saying, guys, you can recommend this to literally everyone.
Well,
I
'cause,
feel like we started in weird spots. We passed in the night and ended up in
Yeah.
different spots.
I mean, okay, so I played like 8 cases, like when this first hit Game Pass, and then I haven't touched this until this week when we're like, oh, let's cover this. So it's like, okay. So then I repicked it up. But now that we're like talking about these previous cases, I was like, man, I remember having a lot of fun with that one. That was a cool one. So that's why I'm kind of like, oh wait, no, this actually was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's always rewarding when you solve a puzzle.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really good feeling when you get there. You solve the puzzle and it's just like, yeah, that felt really good. It felt good to accomplish that. And yeah, there's a lot of, like, I can totally see why this is a hit for people. And it kind of makes me curious what these DLCs look like. Are they just 12 brand new chapters on a different storyline? Because if that's the case, this is actually a really cool vehicle. Like,
Yeah.
if
So you're curious about the DLCs. Does this make you buy curious?
oh, shut up. But it kind of, like, I actually wish more video games were like this in
Yeah.
the sense that you create a package that's really good, and then all you do is, instead of making sequels, just make DLCs to it. And it's all just in one giant package, like a Jack in the Box kind of thing, and you kind of just can keep adding to it. Or like a Master Chief collection. That's kind of a cool concept. I kind of wish, I don't know what these DLCs are, so this is just me speculating, but it'd be kind of cool if they never created a Curse of the Golden Idol 2. It was just, that was the vehicle for them to load on a bunch of new cases, and you could just kind of download it, Will.
Well, if you are buy curious on the DLC as well, they're $6 each, and they are both prequels. So it basically explains as to how the Golden Idol got to its destination on the first case, and how Mr. Cloudsley, one of the main characters, one of the main families, is how he learned about it and got interested in it.
Okay. So they're not totally separate storylines. They're just
Nope.
completely attached to it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And that even not having beaten it yet, I think what's one of the interesting things is, like, I'm already almost bummed to get to the end of it. Like, I talk about this a lot, or we kind of all do just in general, do games overstay their welcome? Are they good because they keep it within that short package? In a sense, I kind of want more of this game than what they're offering. And I don't think that there's not enough of it either. It's like, I think there seems there's plenty of good time play to it, but there's no replay value, which is kind of a bummer, because once you've beaten it, you just know all the stuff. It just might take you half a second to like click all that information back together, but there's no real replay value. And so it's like, once I've beaten it, I'm out of it. And but I want more. I think, at least
There's 2 DLCs waiting for you, Keith.
That's kind of where my head was at, is that with they not even having beaten the game, I was like, oh, cool. Like, I look forward to, probably picking those up and trying them. Like, I don't do that with a lot of games on this podcast. Of like, I think one of the last DLCs of a game we played on this was Atomic Crops, and then it immediately left Game Pass 4 days after I bought the DLC. So now I have Orphan DLC until I buy Atomic Crops, which I could. It's like $15. I just haven't. So.
And I remember you bought the DLC of Journey to the Savage Planet.
Did I?
Yeah. The DLC
yeah.
was called Hot Garbage.
Oh yeah, I did. I don't know why I did. That was, I mean, I enjoyed
That's
it. That's
very
very
random.
Looking back on it, I don't know what I loved about that game.
I think it was on sale for like $2, and you're like, whatever.
that might be.
I remember being very cheap. The sequel's coming out soon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a different type of game, though.
Not really.
Isn't it a third person?
Uh,
And it looks very multiplayer.
Well, the first one had multiplayer as well.
Yeah, but I don't. This one looks like it was like the core component was it was third person with like a bunch of guys running around. It looked different.
I think you can switch from first and third. I don't know.
Oh,
Probably have to cover that sometime. But the other great thing about the Case of the Golden Idol is it is fantastic for achievement hunters. Just beating all 12 cases will net you the 1,000 gamer score. So if you want to be a lame cheater, you literally can go to Google and solve each case within like 30 seconds. Just look up the answer.
who would do that here?
I know. I mean, that'd be lame. But every time you solve a case, it's like 80 gamer score. So yeah, just beating the game gets you 1,000.
And for the record, actually, I had almost just as much of a difficult time. I probably could have done it if I just went straight to like YouTube or something. I actually had just as much a difficult time trying to find the answer, even from Google, because the first one was like IGN, and they just kind of like explained it, but they didn't tell you what the answer was. So then the next one I found, it was a forum, and it was just a bunch of people being like, "Well, did you consider?" I'm like,
oh gosh, those douchebags!
Just tell me.
So they acted just like the hints, huh?
Yeah. But yeah, but did you look here though? I'm like, I looked everywhere. That's why I'm here.
I give those people props. They respect the puzzle. They respect the puzzle.
I'm not even, like I said, not mad at the individual. Just mad at like even trying to cheat is hard in this.
Well, let's get our final thoughts here, because there's no graphics or audio really. But anyway, for me, the Case of the Golden Idol. Like I said, I originally played this for first hit Game Pass a couple months ago, put it down. So when I picked it up, I was in the middle of a case and I'm like, well, I got to start this all over again. So that's why I kind of like iffy about it's kind of hard of a game to maybe put down and pick up, because especially too, like one of the cases I was on, you literally have to do math. You're trying to figure out what people's merits are and where they land and their final score. So I literally had to like write down notes and stuff. And it's like, man, if I stop this midway, I feel like it would really annoy me. But overall though, if you're doing the cases, they each maybe take 30, 45 minutes. They're not very long. Depending.
Results may vary. Yeah, it depends on if you're stuck. You don't have to flex on everybody, Andrew. Like what a thing to say. Like,
wait, how long did a case take you? What did you have to do one for like an hour?
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. That is just a very arrogant thing to say.
Time to beat is 6 to 8 hours.
On average. Not everybody is built the same, Andrew. That's just a very like, if it takes you more than 30 minutes, you suck. So do not listen to this man. If you get stuck, you work, you keep working, you do your best.
I'm just saying, probably more than likely on average, it's probably about that. Okay, you're telling me you sat on a case for like an hour and a half and you didn't pull a Keith here and just look up the answer?
I would never cheat.
Really?
If I was stuck, I was stuck, and I was going to remain stuck.
I just lose at this game. I just lose. The end.
And you know what? I'm not going to look down on somebody. Well, I'm going to look down on somebody for cheating.
At what point did I say you're an idiot if it took you more than 30 minutes? I didn't look down on anyone.
That's what you implied. That's what you implied. And then you looked at me and said, are you telling me you spent more than 30 minutes? What do you think that is, Andrew? That's you looking down. Huh?
It's not looking down. Whatever. Anyway, back to my review. The game, it shouldn't. The results may vary, but overall, it's 6 to 8 hours to complete. About 12 cases. This was a very fun time. I fully agree with Aaron. If you have a group of friends or a significant other, this is something that's easy to just chill and relax and kind of work together. As Javier from Nerd Talk Plus just mentioned, this is Blue's Clues for adults. And that's not a bad thing. It's actually really cool. This is a very unique style type of game. So I had a lot of fun playing it, actually. I'm giving it an 85.
All right. Semantics aside, this is a fun time. Like, it is a fun time. And I do think this is actually an easy game to recommend to people, because I just think you don't have to know or enjoy video games to like this. People like puzzles. And that's what this is. It's a bunch of small puzzles that lead to a giant puzzle. And it is. There's a lot of fun in that. It's kind of nice to have those moments. And keep in mind, I do enjoy certain puzzles. Like I like the New York Times puzzles. I like the crossword. I like the Wordle. That's fun. It's a nice way to kind of switch your brain to something different and kind of just zero in on something. And this is just another version of that. So it is. It's a game that's just easy to recommend. I had a lot. This wasn't what I expected it to be, but it actually turned out to be a pretty enjoyable time and a game that I will finish because it's just that fun. I will finish it though on PC, not on console. I'm gonna knock that version straight out and just stick to the PC version because pointing and clicking on this was way easier. That's how it's supposed to be played. Did you give it a number, Andrew?
Yeah, I said 85.
Oh, okay. I'd give it an 80. Give it an 80.
Yeah, I have to agree on the PC. Like, especially if, like, I don't know, if you're like me and you have a PC that can run some games, just know that this one can absolutely run. Because like I can't run, I don't have anything that runs.
It's a still image.
Yeah, so like, and that
thing.
just goes back to the accessibility. Like, even if you don't have a very good PC, but you're already paying for Game Pass Premium, and so you have PC games, do yourself a favor and go play this on PC because it really is a better experience. But overall, like, even with my gripes about the controls on the console, it wasn't so much that it took away from it. It was more just like learning certain behaviors of just how to do it that you didn't set yourself in a bad spot, which is annoying. It doesn't make a better user experience. It's just you learn to work around it a little bit of what the bad mechanics are for controls, and ultimately it's so inconsequential that it didn't ruin the gameplay for me overall. But I was really surprised. I poked and looked at this game a handful of times, but I didn't truly kind of know what was going on. I couldn't figure it out, and so I didn't know what to expect. And for that reason, we're in March, so it might be a little bit early. I think this might go down as my like surprise of the year or whatever category we throw that into. Because I really kind of didn't, and I ended up having a lot more fun with this than I realized I was going to. So all in all, it really is. I think that's where I'd say it's a definite game. And countering my earlier point and agreeing with Aaron, this is really for anybody. While it might not be something you can get anyone to just go play on their own, it's easily a game that you can say, hey, come sit down and play this. And whoever you ask to do that is going to have fun with it. And then also, if you do any level of gaming already, so you just have easy access to it, is my point, that would be someone who I would definitely recommend this to.
You kind of have to like puzzles, though. I wouldn't say I'd recommend this to anybody, because I do think there are some people that just get frustrated with puzzles, and this does ramp up. But I actually think this has a wider audience because I think a lot of people do like puzzles.
I think the hard part is when you put it into a video game format as it is, in a virtual experience, it turns a lot of people away from what might just be like looking at it like a puzzle. Like, it's easy for us to look at it as a puzzle because you didn't see it as a video game to start with, and be like, I don't want to touch it for that. But anyways, that's not really the important part. I'd really call this, I think, a definite game, and I would say an 89 is what I would go with.
Alrighty, well, there you have it. Let's check out the Case of the Golden Idol. But I've been your hardcore gamer, Danger. You can find me at Xbox Live, Firebird0952. Thank you all for joining us. Like I said, please make sure you join us on our YouTube, our Discord. I still got to get some prizes out for the people on our Discord. I have them like literally next to me. I keep forgetting to send them out. So Squid Kill, Javier, they're coming. And then I think Clarence, I owe stickers too. But join our Discord. Me and Keith love talking to people. We always have a good time. Aaron here has been streaming a lot of Marvel Rivals on YouTube. And I'll throw in a game every once in a while too. But Aaron, take it away.
Yeah, so again, check us out on YouTube. So you can search up Game Pass Grab Bag, and you can find the YouTube channel there. I've been kind of trying some other things. We reviewed Balatro recently, so that seems to be fun for some people to pop in and usually just make fun of me while I struggle with it, because everybody else has like 900 plus hours on it, and I've got like 12 or 13. But But it's been fun to kind of get on there and just get harassed for a while. But yeah, I've been doing some Marvel Rivals. I'm going to try some other things out as well. But I'm open to suggestions. So it's true, we could.
Essentially,
so
we said it's a party game.
If you're in the Discord and you recommend something on stream, I might be willing to give it a shot. So yeah, meet us in there, and maybe you can jump in and watch me struggle at something.
But Aaron, aren't you supposed to be doing something that a listener during the stream told you to say? Chris
Oh my
told you to
gosh!
give a good day, mate.
Oh, good day, mate. I should have done it at the beginning, not at the end. Oh, I screwed up. I screwed up.
He was even in the live recording here, and
he did say it. He did. I will. That'll be my call out at the end. Okay, wait till the end when I say goodbye. Good day, mate.
Properly, of course.
Wait, can you say good day, mate, for bye, or is that hello?
Yeah, I don't. Oh, I mean, that could be like a.
Oh my gosh,
it could go either way.
I screwed this up so bad.
Either way, like I hope you have a good day.
I don't even know if he's in here anymore. So, but I've been Keith, and I've been thinking about this really the whole episode, and it's really been grinding at me. You go back to the mobile game thing, Aaron. And the mobile game genre is becoming so much wider now as phones become much more powerful. And like, I know that Hades isn't like AAA game by any means, but like, I think of games like Hades that are on there now, and we're talking true console games that are also now on mobile and all these things. You have the backbones that you can play games, cloud-based games on, all these things. I disagree with your mobile thing altogether. I do think that in the format of it, it probably is the best way to play this game. But that's it. I hate your mobile argument.
Everything comes full circle.
That's the reasoning, and that's my reasoning for it.
Keep in mind,
your
an Xbox.
To read this time, so I don't have anything else interesting to talk about.
Oh, sorry. Your phone is an Xbox. Don't forget that.
That's my point. Mobile games are no longer just Candy Crush and for your mom.
No,
they are true gaming devices now, and I know you're not making it as a full on knock of it, but I just think that putting that on there like it's some sort of a stink, you're doing it a disservice.
I will concede that point. When I do make the mobile phone game like critique, I am referencing games like Candy Crush and stuff like that. Like, right, you wouldn't put Candy Crush on an Xbox and enjoy it.
I would.
Keith is over here like,
do you remember the days of me playing Hexagon, you guys?
Yes, I do.
Oh my gosh, Hexagon.
So I am making a reference when I do say that. I am kind of referencing probably, this is just me being old now at this point, a certain version of mobile games. I totally get that. Mobile games today are something completely different. Although I do judge people. Wouldn't you judge somebody if they're like, yeah, I'm a big time gamer? You're like, okay, what are you playing on? PC, PlayStation, Xbox? Nope, iPhone. Huge on iPhone. I've been playing Fortnite on the iPhone. Wouldn't you kind of be like, nah, shut up?
No, but I would be like, I would more be like, doesn't that suck? Especially,
yes.
And here's the thing. Well, but that's not a knock on them. I wouldn't be a bother. But so here's a perfect real world example, Aaron, and this is why you don't get it. You're a Patriots fan. You've lived your life in luxury, winning Super Bowls, yada yada yada. I have grown up a Bills fan. Life is misery, at least as far as football is concerned. When people look at me, they look at me the same way I would look at someone who only plays Fortnite on their phone. Like, that's got to be a bad time, right? Like, I'm not mad at you for it. I just feel like that's got to be a bad time. It just doesn't seem fun.
I'm not mad at anybody if they say they play mobile games, but it is kind of like
your reaction was you go,
yeah.
That's
I'd be judgy.
Actually, that's a judgmental tone, and
I would be judgy.
Yeah,
I don't.
So you don't be judgy.
Yeah, I don't hate you.
Be judgy.
I'm not mad at you. You kind of make it sound like I'm mad at them.
Why would you judge? What is there to judge?
Because that's kind of silly.
That if you want to live and deal with the lag of an online multiplayer game of that, because there's also plenty of offline single player games that plenty of gamers could want to play, and they could just purely do that on their iPhone, Aaron. So you know what? You're wrong.
Kind of lame though.
Gosh, you're the worst.
All right, wrap it up, Andrew.
Yeah, this is a very long outro here. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. We love you all. We'll see you again next week.
Good day, mate.
Bye. Oh wait, no, do it again. I talked over you.
Oh,
I didn't
good day,
even do
mate.
it.
I don't know if you got it.